This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wengler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wengler, and John Natale.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, and it is Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network. Happy to have you along wherever you're watching, near and far. I'm Jonathan Turner. To my left, your right, John Natale, and to my
welcome to
left,
Inside
and whatever,
on
Nathan
the
Wengler.
National Soccer Network. Now,
Oh, my bad.
Whoa.
We're still going.
Whoa, hey, whoa.
It was so good up until that point. It was so good up until that point.
Until you were learning your lefts and rights, and you're like,
It has
they're
loop
here.
off, so I guess I should turn the loop off, but yep. But either way, hey, a lot to talk about too this morning. It was a weekend. I mean, we are recovering from a very chaotic and fun weekend, and while we've talked about like our growth and all that over the last couple of weeks and throughout the process of the show. Until you live it and do it, it's hard to really kind of explain, like all the different levels of emotions that I experienced this weekend. We'll get into that here this morning, but something I wanted to address, and I want to start the show off. I know, and I know it might be on a kind of more on a somber note, as much as I don't want to make things somber, but a longtime Michigan referee. I just learned this last night, like late last night, while on Instagram, and confirmed it this morning that a referee here in Michigan was down in Georgia over the weekend. Don't know the details, but unfortunately passed away. A very good referee. I was just talking with Nathan about this, kind of like in the green room, and he if you cover USL League 2 or watch USLW, UPSL, Big Ten, college soccer, really the higher levels in the state of Michigan, this referee, we've seen him. I've seen him. I can't tell you how many times. Now, I never personally worked with this referee. His name is Rob Ruda. Very, very good referee. Very good referee. And I actually think that he actually called the Michigan Stars game here a few weeks ago that you were a part of, John.
Yep, Rob was out there.
Don't know the details. But I feel, in our position, we did it for our young lady here who passed away a couple weeks ago, at Flint Powers Catholic during the high school ranking show. But Rob Ruda passed away this weekend. Again, we do not know the circumstances behind it, but our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and the referee community here in Michigan, the soccer community as a whole. And, prayers and thoughts with Rob Ruda and his family this weekend.
JT, talk a lot about perspective, and you look at this past weekend and you mentioned highs and lows and how we all got through it and whatnot. But when it comes to life and just, the person, these referees, they don't have to do what they do. They get involved, not for themselves. They get involved for the sake of the players, the fans, the organizations, and they get beat on pretty hard in their profession. But nobody plays without them, plain and simple. And, I know of Rob. I didn't know Rob, but just to know that every match that he did, I believe that when you mentioned his name, I believe he's been here quite a bit with Purdue and Indiana here as well, for the Big Ten. But you kind of lose the soccer perspective of it when something that happens. You feel for his family, you feel for his friends. You do feel for the soccer community because he was a friend and he was a mentor to a lot of younger refs coming up through the ranks and whatnot. So I tip my cap to Rob and what he's done, just not as a referee, but as a man in general. So my condolences to the entire Ruda family.
Yeah, we all try to find our purpose in one way or the other, because the truth is we all know we're living on borrowed time. And it's a lot harder for some, but for him, he chose a route and he chose a path that it takes a certain type of person to want to do that because of what you go through, because of what it does entail. And a lot of it is just business. It's not personal, but when your entire job, what you do and what you pride yourself on is oftentimes as thankless as what being a referee can be, and in the face of constant criticism, you have to be a certain type of individual. You have to be a selfless type of person that's willing to put the game almost above yourself in order to do that job correctly. And that's exactly what he did. And you're right, Natalie. I never got the honor of actually meeting him. But for him to put the career together like he did and serve the soccer community like he did, I think it reminds all of us that he is what we're trying to be and what a lot of other people are also trying to be, which is just growing the game. It's putting the game in a better spot, and it's doing it by doing things the right way. We always talk about doing things the right way and having principles and all those other things. He had all of that, and he put, from what I could tell, at least through his body of work, and I didn't know the guy personally, but he put other people first, and that's something that, at the end of the day, his family, and I know it's hard, at least right now, to find some level of closure, and it's going to take a while to heal from this, but rest assured that he made his mark, he made his impact. And so yeah, rest in peace to Rob, man. And it's so random and it's so cruel sometimes, but I guess we all have our day, but while we're here, may as well make the impact that we can. He certainly did.
Yeah. And again, obviously, we don't know the details. Not that the details really matter. I know a lot of times people want to know why, or how. And I that's obviously, I think, part of like the healing process, right? Because everyone wants to try to grapple and understand as to why something is happening or has happened. And as much as the why or the how maybe is important, the most important, I think, thing to take away from all this is that we've lost someone who probably lost, way too soon. And the soccer community as a whole here in Michigan and across the Midwest, where he's had a chance to, make his mark, are gonna be missing that passion, right? And that that presence, which is greatly needed, in soccer in this country. So a lot more Rob Rudas are what we need, not less. And so, but again, our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with, and our condolences are with him and his family and the soccer community in Michigan, and across the country. Moving in obviously a different direction this morning, it was a record-breaking week for us. I kind of alluded to that last week, but it was, and just all the things that go into what we do. It's pretty remarkable how we were able to pull this off this weekend, and I want to get into this here right away. And I'm gonna put some numbers on the screen to kind of put things in perspective, so the people at home and people who are watching, tuning in, can actually see what we did this weekend and kind of how massive it is. So this weekend, by the numbers, we had 55 total broadcasts over the weekend, of which just under 50,000 total views across our YouTube and Roku channels. We had over 415 new subscribers and 200,000 impressions is what we had this weekend in regards to our activity. There's a lot more activity that I can't even get into because the analytics are still coming in, but those are our numbers here for the weekend.
Yeah, what's crazy to me is that I saw that video that you guys released inside of the studio, and I've been obviously in that space plenty of times, going down doing games, hanging out with you guys. I mean, even some of the ESPN Plus stuff. I've been in that room, and the truth is, I've been in there when your whole family's in there, and you've had a couple of producers in there. And obviously, we've used the main room plenty of times for MASL games and whatnot, but never before have I seen it filled up to the brink quite like it was over this weekend. And I remember you showing that video. And what's crazy to me is how much coordination that takes. But it's also that what's also nuts to me is the simplicity of it too. Like, truth is you have a play-by-play guy and his remote setup, like where I was on Saturday here. And obviously with me being at the field was a little bit different, but me here on Saturday, and then you have the one producer, and they're all assigned to different places, and they all kind of have an understanding of where they need to be and what they need to do. And it's not an easy thing. And I know that there's a lot that goes into, producing high level games, but it's not an easy thing to get someone trained up and ready to roll and put in that position and make it run the way that they did. So that to me was kind of mind blowing when I saw, you panning through that room. But that's also kind of the new wave at the same exact time. I mean, you and I had this conversation, JT, about kind of what the customer expects. And I found that interesting because they have kind of been opened up to this world too of what exactly it is that we're capable of doing, which is what we showed this weekend, which is, we can do it from a place that isn't necessarily anywhere close and still give you replay and still give you different angles and still give you different things. Is it perfect at all times? No, I think there's a lot of aspects of the remote stuff that is still coming along, but for the most part, what we are able to provide was pretty special this weekend. So, and I got to be a part of that, at least in a smaller way. So that was really impressive.
I had 7% of those 55 matches over the weekend, and I'm sure that something that'll come up in this conversation is the weekend that we had at the Pride Performance Center over the weekend. I did 3 matches there, and then on Saturday I had to scoot home and do a 10 o'clock match for the WPSL on the West Coast. So I think that ability right there is to be in Central Indiana and to do a live show, really, which was fantastic. I think it was perfect as far as the setup and everything. There were some hiccups as far as Mother Nature was concerned on Friday, but I'm sure JT will get into that story about what those numbers looked like and kind of where we had to navigate through Friday night. But through the weekend, knowing that all of this was going on around me, the matches that we put on, which were humbling. We had 2 debuts, one in the WPSL, one in the NPSL. First goal scored for new franchises, but the kickoff to seasons for others and highly anticipated matches. And you mentioned it, Nate, the simplicity really of what it is, the hands-off things that teams have to do for this and really just say, hey, we're in for it. We'll take care of the other stuff. And some of them already have the equipment. We don't even have to do that. And through word of mouth and everything, and JT, you and I can get about this offline, is that, we may have some new friends and some new partners wanting to join what we do here at NSN. So that was exciting as well. But to be a part of that, to see the numbers that were coming in, not just for my matches, but overall for Premier Media Group, NSN, individuals doing the broadcast and whatnot. I know, Nate, you probably were looking at some analytics and were like, dang, and everything like that. So kudos to the broadcasters, kudos to the producers, kudos to Premier and everybody working behind the scenes. It made for a great weekend, a record-breaking weekend. I'm glad I was a part of it.
No, I am glad that you were part of it too. I'm glad that everyone's a part of it. We had a moment there at the end because Saturday was a record-breaking day, right? Our previous record was last weekend of 16 games. On Saturday we did 27, right? So it was a record-breaking day on Saturday, and at the end of it, when we're finally kind of like towards the tail end of it, it's like 11:30, and I kind of looked at the crew around. We still had a full house. And I just looked at everybody and said, hey, I go, you guys just want you to know you take this all in, but we just did something that's never been done before. Right. And we kind of all looked at each other last night too, after, and this is, last night after the weekend, we did 16 games yesterday. Right. 16 events. We looked at each other and go, yeah, we can do more. We can do more. And because there's this fear, right? Because I as much as I want to laugh about this, 6 months ago we couldn't do more than 3 at a time. I couldn't handle more than. I mean, we had just for the first time done 3 at a time 6 months ago, and we did 11 at a time on Saturday and Sunday, like 11. I mean, so and it's again, everything is about perspective. And what we're learning in our new perspective and our new reality is where the workflow issues are. And again, I don't care if you're a multi-million-dollar company organization that's been doing this for 30 years or a brand new startup who's been doing this for 3 days. You don't know you're in the shit until you're in it. And there's not much you can do about it. And as much as you want to prepare for it, all you can prepare for is how you're going to try to react when you're in the shit.
Yep.
Yeah. But you can't prepare for everything.
Nope.
You just can't. You prepare to react. You prepare to be ready for anything. And that's what we have to do. And so, but we were able to manage it. And but Friday night, had Friday been Saturday, John would not have made his 10:00 game, by the way. So I think that's important to state. Had Friday been Saturday, John would not have been back at the house to call the game in Iron Rose, WPSL game, whatever it was on Saturday.
Yeah, Natalie, did you guys have a freaking EF5 pass through your neighborhood too?
Oh,
goodness! I mean,
well, all you have to do is watch Friday night's broadcast, and you'll see what kind of we had to do with.
Look at that. That's the weather delay.
Tornado delay.
Screen. I actually, when we were designing the actual weather delay thing, I actually put a tornado-like thing on the screen, and John's like, "You can't do that. You can't do that."
You're inciting the people, JT.
It was like, hey, look what's going on here in Indianapolis, Indiana, as he's got an F5 swirling around. I'm like,
whipping through the neighborhood.
Probably not a good idea.
So this is what we ended up putting this on the screen, and we did it once before with John and the APSL in a game, and because weather was coming in, there's a question about whether we were gonna get the games, and so we put this on, and like we put it on for like a couple seconds, and the comment section was like, put it back on, put the map back on, and then we actually ended up putting a poll in, like we had a vote for it. We had like over 100 votes for the map to stay on the screen. So this
turned into the Weather Channel. That's great.
So we literally had this on the screen so people could be like, what is going on? Why is there no game? And so ultimately there's a longer delay. And so I made the decision at the time. I was calling the Michigan Stars versus Legends FC in Washington Township. So I reached out to our producers and said, hey, if this game is if this game isn't happening right now, let's give the audience some soccer to watch, and so we quickly transitioned over to our game in Washington Township. So I think it started with like the second half. Like we actually brought them in, well, actually in the 60th minute. So now the fans who are looking to watch the FC Pride game are now being introduced to the Michigan Stars, and really being introduced right at a penalty shot. So it was really kind of a cool moment to be able to kind of, bring that in. And then but they're all getting a chance to be introduced into this environment, and really kind of be, see what we can do. And then, ultimately the game. So the game, my game ends, and we go back to, okay, we've got a nice little ad here. My bad. Sorry, guys. But this is how we do make our money. So I just want to make okay. So, so what ends up happening is, and John, you can probably tell the story better than I can. So I'm going to let you tell this story, but we are given word that the game will continue. We were told it was going to be canceled, and then it will continue. And at 9:45, they're going to go kick off. We bring it back live on the air, but it's my understanding that it was still some things were still happening in Mother Nature land, so we didn't feel comfortable putting a camera operator up in the path of Mother Nature. So we shifted to an audio only environment. Is that fair to say?
Let me preface that to show you not only my dedication to stick around, call that audible to go audio only because, safety first, and there were still lightning strikes in the area. How close they were didn't matter. We weren't going to put our people in danger of that. So, but to show you, if you can bring that picture up that I just put in the studio, this is what I was busy doing in between the rain delays. It's me with a push broom pushing out the water so the fans could come back in for the second delay. Not an employee of FC Pride, not an employee of the Pride Performance Center, but there I am busy at it with the push broom. And there was a good foot of water there trying to get it towards this drain. But yeah, we didn't think that it was going to go the way that we thought it was going to go. And JT, you and I were talking and said, let's go audio. And I said, let's do it. Let's stick around. And I don't think we just gained the appreciation of everybody that was tuning in, but I know that FC Pride definitely was giving us kudos for doing that and keeping it going. And JT, from what you told me, that the analytics for that game were kind of through the roof for a very odd situation. But I think the way everybody handled it, I thought it was brilliant to bring in your match. And as you were commentating through that, you were mentioning what was going on in Indianapolis. So you didn't let that crowd lose interest. But we brought it back, and comment section was blowing up, and we had ourselves a 2-1 victory at the end of the night for FC Pride Elite in the WPSL and in the season or the franchise debut for Peoria City. So we were able to get the inaugural goal for Peoria City, which I think is cool. We captured that. And which is also cool about that, it's a local product. Annika Klaus, who plays at Ball State, is the one that scored that goal for Peoria City. So it was a nice full circle moment. She sat out all of last year with a torn ACL as a red shirt this year. So she's going to get a chance to play, kicks off the franchise of Peoria City with the first goal in history. So even though it was a long, long night, the fact that we persevered and got through the match and, and I don't like saying it, but the shit show that occurred through that entire night was less on us than it was anything else, because I think we handled it extremely well. And Brianna, your daughter, did a marvelous, marvelous job. I still give her credit for hanging in there for as long as she did. She did a wonderful job in communicating with me, letting me know. Bianca was doing the same, and just everybody was in everybody's ear. And when we had to do it, we got on track. We were good and got ourselves a good match in the process. So kudos to everybody.
Yeah, it's funny because most of the graphics you see on the screen have been designed by me. Obviously, I didn't design the weather
bug. Yes,
but I mean that's obviously from. But like the cool thing about that is that Brianna on her own accord went in because she knew I had done it in the past, had gone in and created the weather bug browser and pulled it in, right? And then this graphic on the screen, this extreme weather thing, she created that on the fly. We don't have anything like that where we go extreme weather commentary only. Because our very own John Natale was hunkered down in a basement, under the stadium calling the game.
Yes, I was.
So it's like, we created this environment very quickly, and so that we could still deliver, because at the end of the day, the fan still wants to know what the hell's going on, and we can still provide that in an audio only environment. And that's also another reason why I've even considered, and we haven't talked about this, but I'm definitely considering doing this for like any environment where leagues are like, hey, we want it on our platform. Well, maybe we do it like we do for the MHSAA. Maybe we do our own we still provide the feed to where it's supposed to go, but on our platform, with a graphic on the screen saying this is the audio only version. If you want to watch it, go watch it here. We can still call the game. People can still tune into our platform and still hear us calling the game if they don't want to go to that platform. And that's something that it's been highly successful for us. I mean, if we think about this, like the high school boys soccer state championships, I think combined viewership this past fall was like almost 10,000 views. from an audio only. They didn't see anything. They just saw me and Nathan on camera all day long, just looking at us while we're calling the game. So there's something to be said about that. I got to talk with the leagues to confirm that that's okay, because I don't want to go against what they're doing, but we're not putting their game on the field, so that you would think they wouldn't have a problem with that. But again, to each their own. But yeah, I mean, that's just the nuances of what we do and how we do it. And it's just really cool, that we're able to kind of, but understanding that the reason we're able to do that is because somewhere down the line over the last 3 years, I've experienced it, and in some way, shape, or form, just like John was. I mean, if I look back, there was a moment we were laughing about this on Saturday night because you were experiencing it. But 2 years ago, I was called out to go to do a girls' game out at Flint and record the game. And so we did. And while we're there, tornado warnings go off. They clear the stadium. We had to drive about a half mile away to another location, park our cars, and run inside of a building while it was hailing, and hunker down in a basement for like 45 minutes. And then we're like, and this was just a friendly. This wasn't even like a league game. It was just like, it didn't mean anything. But we ended up still doing the game that night. And so I in our press box at Atwood Stadium is so much more closer to like the tip of Mount Everest that you feel like, you're about, I mean, I'm not saying that, I don't know what FC Pride's environment's like, but maybe the stadium's maybe your typical 20, 30 feet off the ground, with the bleachers and whatever. I mean, at Atwood, it's a bowl, it sits at the top of a hill, but the hill is obviously higher, and the press box is legitimately probably 100 yards from the field. Up in the air. It's far up. So it's you feel like you're closer to mother, to where you shouldn't be in bad weather. But so 55 broadcasts this weekend. What a great weekend. I know Jan Volker was in the comments. I'm glad he called the game on Saturday for us. Bay Valley Albion. Peter chiming in, plan to fail, failed to plan. There you go. I like that one. And then Jan coming, incredible stuff on the broadcast. I'm glad I called the game Saturday. We are glad as well. This week is even busier for us. So we did 55 broadcasts over 3 days. This week we've got 88 broadcasts over 4. So it's going to be another record-breaking weekend for us. The following weekend, I don't know. I'm still planning to fail, and I don't know.
Fail to plan. Plan to fail to plan. Peter MMN. I'm gonna post that in the back somewhere.
Oh boy. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we are we're having a ball. We also did our last high school ranking show of the season last night. That got underway. Patty Cesarini here. So we towards the tail end of the day, right? You got to go and shift and shift it into our other space here and did the ranking show last night. So we will dive into rankings here in just a moment. What else happened this weekend? I'm just thinking. I don't think I saw any daylight. To be fair, I know that. Oh, more Legos.
Ooh.
More Legos. I mean, this guy is pulling more Legos out than I've ever seen. I mean, that thing behind you is just
Papa needed a toy after this weekend, so I got that. I needed to reward myself after this weekend.
Now remind me, where do you get these? Is there like an online retailer you go to? Or
Lego.com. We actually have a store here.
Right.
We actually have a Lego store here in Indianapolis, which is really cool.
Interesting.
But yeah. They have them at Meijer. They have them at, wherever I can get my sticky fingers on them, I'll grab them right off the shelf.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to dive into quickly here Midwest Premier League action this weekend. We can share this screen too. Let's talk about kind of what happened there. Maybe some USL too. Get into some of the stuff that's going on in the soccer world, because I know a lot of games happen this weekend. A lot of really fun stuff. Let's take a look here at Midwest Premier League, and here it is. Detroit Badgers. That's 2 weeks ago. Hang on. Let's go back here. Here we go. 8. Nope. There we go. Saturday the 17th. A lot of games happening. Bavarian United falling short to AFC Roscoe 3-1. Tar Belleville losing 1-0 to Boss St. Louis. Green Bay Glory tying 3-3. That game was on our platform. AFC Omaha winning over Sessa. Holland Rovers tying 1-1 against Goshen FC. Grand Rapids losing to 1927 SC by score 1-0. Lansing Common opening up their season, winning 2-0 over Tulip City United. And then Chicago House rolling 3-0 over that Jaslow Chicago. We did have a game Friday night, though. Michigan Stars did beat Legends FC by a score of 3-1. Liquid Football beat FC Pontiac by a score of 4-2. And then St. Louis Development Academy winning 3-0 over AFC Columbia. And then Sunday, Lenoma FC beating Warriors FC 3-2. Futsal Factory losing to Detroit United in their home opener. Cedar Rapids Inferno winning 2-1 over Pearl City, and Strikers Fox Valley beating Rockford FC by a score of 3-1. So those are your Midwest Premier League scores. Again, Lansing Com, big friend of our show, and they did get their first victory of the season, so good for them. And that is a look at the Midwest Premier League. Take a look at the USL League too. What are you guys' thoughts about that? I mean, we did do some games this weekend here as well, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I did a couple of games. I thought Midwest United bounced back really well on Saturday when I did the game there. I thought they got back into the driver's seat. They got a victory, which was cool to see. They struck quick in that game, which was rare. They took their first lead of the season, and I think they kind of ran with that. And Lansing City, I think they just ran out of gas, to be completely honest with you. But credit to Midwest United in that second half. They took advantage of it, realized they had them on the ropes, realized, hands on hips. So they kind of, pushed down on the throttle the last, 15, 20 minutes. And, I mean, it was just attempt after attempt, opportunity after opportunity. They had great build-up on their approaches. It's just they got to learn how to finish their opportunities a little bit better, because there was a chance to win that game about 4-5-1, and I realized the goal is just to win the game. But the very least got themselves out of the dweller, and like you see there, into the top four. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but I liked at least what they presented from that perspective.
Do you guys mind if I jump in with the USL champion, since we're on USL 2? Can I jump in with the USL championship point something and get your guys' thoughts on something?
Yeah. Would you want to get this on the screen first and then hop into it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Midwest United obviously got their first victory on Saturday night. We just talked about that. Union FC Macomb going into Oakland County FC in their home opener on Saturday. Union FC, remember, they had beaten Kalamazoo FC. They had beaten Midwest United, right? And doing so, I would say easily, but they were having good games. Go in and get just rolled over by Oakland County by a score of 3-0. So very, very interesting how that kind of shakes up here. And obviously you see them with matches played. By the way that the standings work here is based on points per match. So obviously, being that AFC Ann Arbor right now is averaging 3 points per match because they're undefeated, they are currently ahead of Oakland County. But Oakland County is also averaging 3 points per match because they've won their only game. And then you see there now Union, they've played 3 games. They're averaging 2. So they actually do it based on points per match is how they actually rank them in the standings. But at the end of the season, it's based on wins and losses. So it's like, so just so there's no confusion when teams start getting in there. Because you could actually average more points per match and maybe actually finish maybe 3rd or 4th. Just based on how things kind of shape up. So anyways, just to put things in perspective. But yeah, so there's just a look at USL League 2. I know, John, you want to talk about now USL Championship, so let's get into that conversation.
Yeah, because of my affiliation with the Indy 11, I always keep tabs on them, even though my focus has drifted away from them a little bit because of the work that we're doing with NSN. But, we've been harping on this US Open Cup for the past couple weeks. And something struck me on Saturday, a match that I couldn't figure out how it happened and how they're there, but it just kind of goes in that whole thing, like who's putting who on the pitch versus the MLS and USL championship teams. So the Colorado Switchbacks, who are currently 9th in the Western Conference in USL championship, I saw them week 1 against the Indy 11. They played to a draw, but not very good. But Indy 11's not having the greatest season anyway. But they won. They beat the Pittsburgh Riverhounds on Saturday 1-0. And we've been talking about there's only one team left in the Open Cup that is from USL Championships. That's the Riverhounds. So explain that. Somebody explain that to me, how they can get to where they are And who did they beat? I think they beat New York, didn't they? The Riverhounds in that round of 32, I believe it was. And that the Indy 11 ties Philadelphia 1-1, but Colorado Switchbacks come out of nowhere, almost dead last in the Western Conference, and beat the Riverhounds. So it was so confusing when I saw that score. The Indy 11 got beat 3-1 by Charleston Battery. Charleston Battery hasn't lost a match yet. They're ripping through the league. But other than that, it just made everything so much more confusing about the conversations we're trying to have to try to piece this whole U.S. Open Cup thing together. But now that happened, the paper mache came right off the back, and the dog jumped up on the table, and the cat's knocking pieces off the table. What the hell's going on?
Well, let me ask you guys this, and you guys can answer this, because I'll just be honest, I haven't seen enough of the sport in my life. I've seen a decent amount, but I don't think I've seen enough to really kind of understand. Do you guys think, at least when you look at the game of soccer, in terms of parity, is it one of those sports much like, because I like to regard, when I think of something like baseball, if you have a good pitcher that you throw out there, you have a chance to beat anybody. Anybody. If you have a couple good pitchers, you can beat anybody. Basketball, if you get hot, you can beat anybody. If you can shoot, at like anybody, any given day, you can beat them. Like we've seen it, I mean, Chaminade beating, national champions in Virginia back in the 80s. Like it can happen. Is soccer one of those games too, where like, so long as you just have a decent plan on a counterattack, you can beat a team that's far superior talent-wise?
I don't think so. No, because I think you can have a great striker or a great forward or a great 9 or 10 up there, but you're still up against 10 guys.
Yeah.
And unless you get that through ball, I mean, you're looking at 120 and 50, and you have to get that perfect through ball from your midfield or from the back line to get through to even make a run. And I don't care how talented you are, that if you put Messi on a team with a bunch of Dollar Tree general assistant managers and played against, the Riverhounds or the 11, he may score, but it's just a numbers thing. Like when you think of basketball and you think of players who can take over a game, right now it's Steph Curry, it's LeBron. You look at some of the players in the Eastern the Eastern Finals and the Western Finals, and Anthony Edwards, a Jalen Brunson, guys like that. But if you take those other four away, and it's Jalen Brunson versus the Pacers, there's nothing he can do. And that's kind of how soccer is, because of the spacing and everything. You can't draw those other people away because they know that, hey, we're going to triple team Messi, no problem. I mean, we don't care. Let someone else beat us. You can't do that in really other sports. I mean, being the baseball guy that you are, a guy can just have a week where he bats .430 with 4 home runs, drives in 12 and whatever. But then the next week he goes stone cold, absolutely stone cold. And then the team goes stone cold because you're looking for that one run. The other guys are batting 260, 250, maybe under the Mendoza line, and he can't get that going either. But you said throw a good pitcher out there, you have a chance any night. Football's the same way. You have so many good players, and that's why the same teams win every year, because it's the same players who are winning. But I don't think soccer is that the way that it's the pace, the play, the speed, and just that size of the field. I don't think it's a thing where one person can dominate a game like they can in the other sports.
So I'm not going to say that I totally disagree with what you're saying, John, but I do disagree on some level.
Oh,
I'll tell you why.
That's why we're here. It's not.
I'll
save the cat from the tree radio here. This is let's go. Let's get in each other's grills. Come on, bring it.
Yeah. So as a former coach, coaching soccer, there were opponents that on any day we would never match up against from top to bottom, right? And they're just the only hope you had was creating chaos and frustration and hoping that the wind would blow a certain way and the ball would make a bounce that would find its way in the back of the net.
Yep.
Right. And so there are countless stories that I could share with you where teams that had no business beating me or teams I had no business beating, we did. because of those types of moments where you pack it in, right? Where everybody gets behind, 10 players behind the ball for the entire game. And you're just patient. You patiently defend, patiently defend, and then counter. And again, at this level, at the USL Championship level, that's a different animal altogether. And that's why I say I don't totally disagree, but I do on some level. Is again at that level, your teams are playing straight up. I would never go into a game against a powerhouse and play my normal lineup against the weaker teams in my leagues. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't play a 4-3-3 straight up with a 4-3-3. I wouldn't do that. You're going to see teams that do a variation of their formations when they start playing against teams that are better than them. They might go to a 3-4-3. Okay? They might go to a 4-1, let's see, a 4-1-4-1. They might do something like that. Right? Again,
I love the eyes look up. I love the eyes look up for the math.
They might just do different things. Maybe a 3-5-2. There's so many variations of a formation that are designed to give your team a better opportunity to quote unquote, handle the pressure. And Peter's saying he saw his first 5-3-2, which is again. We talked about this. We knew that we were going to be facing an opponent we just couldn't measure. And I had this conversation. We should do like a 6-1-2-1. I was like, let's put 6 in behind the ball. I mean, we'll just force them to take 75-yard shots if I have to. I mean, but it's not as simple as that, right? If you have just one really, really good player, the chances of your team being successful, not aside. Now, with that player, yeah, probably. They'll probably have 30 goals in a season, and that's all you'll have, and you'll have 27 losses, and you'll have 30 goals, of which 1 goal a game. But you lost all of them 6-1. That's kind of how that would work. You need to have a supporting cast. You know what I mean? Every good TV show or movie has a star with a great supporting cast. Right? Every team that's ever been good, every team that's been great has had a great player and a supporting cast. And that's
sorry.
No, it's okay. That's how this works. That's how you win soccer games. That's how you win sports. I mean, Tom Brady might be the greatest quarterback in the history of all time, but Tom Brady had a supporting cast. Now, it might not have been the best supporting cast, but he had one. Players rose to the occasion.
Well, all right. So let me ask you this, because that's a good question. Because when you say Tom Brady being here in Indianapolis, who's the first counter of a name that you come up with? And it's right on. There you go. The sheriff boy. That argument. Oh my God. But when you look at the players that Tom Brady had, and you look at the players that Peyton Manning had, after they got all their kudos and all their rings and all their accolades or whatever, and they're like, you know what? I can do this on my own. And then they go off to other teams and you never hear from them again. Did those players make them better? Like, are there people throughout soccer that you can mention, whether it's Premier League, whether it's here, MLS, whatever, in any league, where players make their teammates better? And then when those teammates say, hey, I can do it without so-and-so, I can do it without so-and-so, they go on and they just float off into the wind like they never existed.
Yes. I mean, schematically, especially in football is one of those sports where it's scheme, right? You are literally designing a scheme around players and their attributes and their characteristics. Basketball, I'm not saying basketball isn't schematic, but basketball, to be fair, as much as it might be scripted, it's most of it's just unscripted.
More pace and space now than what it used to be. Yeah.
So, but football is all about scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer is very much like basketball. It's very fluid, right? Fluidity in the moment. But the best players in the world, they know how to take the space and the fluidity of the game and use it to their advantage.
You know what I've found too? A lot of what soccer comes down to is beating the man in front of you. Like, it really is a simple science in that way, especially when you talk about getting into space, and I've seen a lot of that. Not that it's all about one-on-one, because obviously you got a bunch of players out there, and even you mentioned, and it was during a broadcast once, JT, you were like, what's faster, the ball or the man? And this trick question, I was like, what are you trying to get me on something here? He's like, no. He's like, what's faster, the ball or the man? I'm like, the ball. He's like, right. So the touch is just as important as the finish, right? So obviously it's not all ones. It's not just, one-on-one all the time. But I've also found that if you're able to just beat the man that's in front of you, that opens up everything else. And so I guess that, like, it is a team sport, but at the same exact time, if you have good individual players, you're going to put you in a really, really, really good spot.
I'd like to ask you both
offsides. Yes,
I'd like to ask you both the question. I want to get into your JT, especially your coaching mind, and then Nate, if you want to throw on your snazzy suit on the sideline at Old Tottenham or anything like that. Would you guys rather have the best defender on the planet or the best striker on the planet?
Probably defender.
That's a great question. I want to ask a follow-up question, though, real quick before I answer this. Is this great defender also great, because I look at a defender in a lot of different ways, but are they just great defensively, or are they great also in the mindset that they can get?
All right, so I'll counter that question with a comment. Goodness. So your striker is great with the ball at his feet, can put it anywhere in the net, can get to any place that he wants, but he could also pass, just a beautiful assist, man. He knows how to place the ball perfectly.
So it's like Beckham, like Wayne Rooney. Okay, fair enough.
But your defender keeps the striker in front, like his body turns, so he's basically backing him, is able to clear, able to communicate, but also send balls forward, get it to your midfield, move it forward.
Let's just clarify better. Could my defender stop your attacker that you're talking about?
That's what I'm asking you. I'm just asking. You can get one or the other. It's not
50-50.
mine. It had nothing to do with me. This isn't my team. I've got both of them. I don't need I got the best striker and I got the best defender. I'm asking you if you could only choose one. I don't care.
The best attacker.
Okay, so Nate takes the
only way you can win soccer game is by scoring more than their team.
That's fair. You gotta stop the other team from scoring too. That's the other half of that.
But if I have the best attacker,
it's true. But yeah, think about how much pressure it would take off your goalie too. Yeah, at the same exact time.
We didn't talk about goalkeeping. I had the best goalkeeper too. He didn't say I had the best goalkeeping.
You already have the best goal. Okay, so JT already has the best goalkeeper. So now he's just adding another piece. So whichever one he takes, he's up 2-1. Best concession prices.
Honestly, I would have both. I would have the best defender.
Best bathrooms.
I'd have the
state of the art toilets.
The reason I asked the question about the defender is because, again, if we think about it from the standpoint of in soccer, 40% of all goals come from set pieces, right? So, and especially at the highest levels, I can't speak to the lower levels, but at the highest levels in this country, set pieces are the most important thing in the world. That's why they spend a lot of time on them. That we actually had this conversation in one of my coaching clinics back when I was younger, talking about how we need to spend more time on set pieces and trainings, because they literally, if you do it and you do it right, you'll score. If you're scoring 40 goals a season, you're going to score 10 of them on set pieces, and those 10 goals are important, right? And so at that point, you're not necessarily worrying about replacing a player who scores 20 goals. You're worrying about replacing a set piece to help, kind of just like in Moneyball, right? You're trying to find the ways to create goals when otherwise you can't through normal play, and that's why I was asking about the defender. Are they good? Are they good offensively in the air? Because if I'm saying, typically you're sending your center back, for example, they're going to go up and they're probably going to be in the box because they're really good, strong in the air, and we're going to have them go win head balls and win and score goals, right? And it's being that I didn't know that, just a great defender.
You would think best defender on the planet. They would have all those attributes. It's not the best scorer in the world; it's the best defender. Period. Like when you say who's the best. Who's the best linebacker in the NFL? Who's the best hitter in Major League Baseball? You can.
Well, yeah, I get that, but it's different because in baseball, you can be a great hitter, but you can be a shitty field player. That's why you're DH.
But I didn't say. I said best hitter. I didn't say anything about the field.
I know, but
in
soccer, you're saying best defender. That are we just saying that all they do is just great defending and they don't get involved in active play going forward? They don't score goals.
Well, that's the thing in baseball. You don't get involved in active things. Your offense comes strictly from you being at the plate. If you're a right fielder and the ball's hit the left, nothing you can do with that.
But that's why, like, for example, a better example would be a basketball player, because they're both actively involved in defense and offense in a game, and they might be really not. I mean, again, not be great at shooting the ball, but they're really good at blocking, right?
Well, so
really
I guess
defensively.
I guess the question would be the best defender on the planet who's a liability on offense, or the best striker on the planet who's a liability on the other end. What about that?
Well, traditionally, your center backs are not the. Again, there are 4 different roles in defense. You have your outside backs who are also wing backs now, who get forward and go score goals, and they get involved in active play. And then you have center backs, and their sole job is to be in the center of the park, and that's all they do is just manage the middle of the park. So when you say best defender,
I must now. Where did that can of worms go? Maybe it's under Pandora's box. What the hell just happened? Oh
I'm just saying it's a loaded question.
Yeah, apparently it was. Next topic. Holy crap.
This is our conversation right now. Can you see that?
No, it's all
okay. It's a big circle, but anyways.
I think it's again.
It is a good question.
It started off as a good question, but then we just had to keep digging. It was like Dig Dug from 1982. Just keep going.
But would you consider Lionel Messi a great attacker?
I think he's the best offensive talent that's ever played the game.
Yeah. But the argument would be that while he is a great attacker, he's more of a midfielder.
But I didn't say it. I said he's the best offensive player. So that
but it wasn't the question you asked me. You questioned me, would I rather have an attacker or a defender?
You're right. I said, would you rather have, going back to the original question, would you rather have the best attacker or the best defender? That's all I asked.
So Ronaldo would actually.
His name started with a G. It would be different because G becomes before K in the alphabet, which my defender has. So I'm taking G. No. Oh my God.
No, that's not even close.
We're doing some mental gymnastics over here.
That's what I want to know. I'm sweating on a podcast because I'm so worked up right now. Come on.
This is great. This is a great question, though. Question is for all you watching right now is do you want to have a better attacker, the best attacker in the world, or the best defender in the world?
Yeah, and humor me in the comments. Throw just every little, build the web and then build your point and then just have bullet points and then have ones after that.
What if there's a tornado coming? Huh? What
just
then?
Have Brianna put up the weather bug there. That's simple. We take care of that. Have Brianna put up the weather bug for the match. And then we go to audio. Done. There. Done deal. Was able to answer that question.
Good. No game. Over. Everyone go home.
Oh my goodness. It's only 9:53. He's got 7 more minutes of this.
Go. Anyways, take it away, JT.
Yeah, September. I'm checked out, boy.
I'm changing my mind to defender.
After all that,
because now that I think about it, he likes pasta fagioli better than he likes spinach ricotta ravioli.
Personally, pasta fagioli is actually really good, by the way.
I that's why I said it. And hence my last name. Like, that has nothing to do with Italian or anything. That I would even. That's the first food I mentioned was pasta fagioli.
Natalelli. Well,
I know.
Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. We're having a blast here at a ball here, talking about what great even means. And I've actually asked this question before. We've talked about it on broadcast. And what does GOAT mean? And that's a whole nother conversation, because I think that we use the word GOAT as if
there is no such thing. I'll answer. For me, there's no such thing as a GOAT. Doesn't exist.
Like a one singular person that can be called a GOAT?
Nope.
Really?
What about in a generation?
Nope. Nope.
So GOAT does not exist.
Nope.
So Michael Jordan to you is just a great player.
Yep.
Just not greatest of all time, just a great player.
Because when you're the greatest of all time, if there is just one player that you can counter that with to say, well, with Michael Jordan has this, but LeBron. Okay, so if you just question it one time, it's over. If Jerry Rice is the best, but done.
Greatest player in the 90s in basketball, go.
If you're saying, okay, so now you've broken it down to the 90s.
Yep.
That's the greatest player in the 90s was Michael Jordan.
Right. Cross generations, I agree. I agree with what Natalia is. It's you can't say greatest of all time simply because you are talking about literally decades and decades ago. And it's just it's a different sport now. I don't even know if it directly translates.
I'm so tired of that argument of trying to like recognize players now who are bigger, stronger, faster than players in the past. Like we talk about, let's go to basketball. Bill Russell, phenomenal player, has 11 rings under his belt. That's Shaq would crush Bill Russell like a cashew under a glass. It wouldn't even be a contest.
Yeah.
And I'll say it now. One-on-one, LeBron beats Michael Jordan because LeBron's too big. All LeBron would have to do is back down a 6'6" guard who is about 215 soaking wet. LeBron's 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", 275 soaking wet, built like a brick shithouse, and all I'd have to do is back them down.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, Jordan has 6 rings. Okay, yeah, LeBron's been there 10 times.
But to be fair, I mean, Jordan would play LeBron maybe, 10 times a year, 8 times a year, something like that. It wouldn't even be like some crazy number. So
they would play each other 4 times. Or I should say, if LeBron was on the Cavs and Jordan was on the Bulls, they would play each other 4 times every year.
Okay.
2 in Chicago and 2 in Cleveland.
And then, of course, in the playoffs, if we saw in playoffs. But I don't disagree. I am 100% on board with your mindset. I think us going and say, okay, who was the best quarterback in the 90s? Because that's when they were playing. Yeah, and you could argue, okay, 15 years, but the average NFL quarterback maybe plays for 6 years, right? Whatever, But like Joe Montana, right? 1980s, was he the best quarterback in the 80s? Or who was a better quarterback in the 80s? Who was the greatest quarterback in the 80s?
Probably Montana.
I'd probably give it to Montana.
Probably
I would give it to
Montana.
In the 90s, would we go 90s? Who would we say? Would we say like a
Troy Aikman?
Troy Aikman. Okay.
You could.
I mean, Brett Favre was in there too, wasn't he?
Favre, yeah. I mean, and
but that's a harder one. That's a harder one to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and every one moving forward. I mean, even go back to the 60s, like who was better, Johnny Unitas or Otto Graham?
Yeah. You can do generational goats.
I just I like the name.
Peter with you spelled it wrong, but he that's my man, the old side slinger from the University of Miami. Bernie Kosar, Kosar, led the Browns to 3 AFC championship games, but he was beaten by who? Another great one you can make an argument for, John Elway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, John Elway.
But I mean, even in baseball, if you want to point towards that, I mean, Babe Ruth he's the Babe, man. But if they ever saw an 102 mile an hour fastball, they might have had that pitcher arrested for witchcraft. It would have been a quick outing for that.
Yeah,
guy.
But there were some players throwing smoke back.
There
like
were
Bob
some,
Feller.
but they weren't athletes like they are now. I mean, they were smoking cigarettes and drinking and doing everything else.
Now that we're on baseball, and this is kind of this whole thing, I do want to ask you guys, who is the best hitter of all time? Is it Pete Rose or Ichiro?
It will be Shohei Ohtani. But
it's not. It wasn't in the chat. Is it Pete Rose or Ichiro?
I'm gonna have to say Ichiro.
Yeah, I think he was a more consistent hitter too.
Here's a amazing stat. In his first game, Ichiro went 1 for 3, batted .333. Never dropped beyond 300 after that.
Yeah,
he's one of
the fastest players ever.
Very consistent, right?
Speed translates anywhere you go. Like the amount of infield hits you can get from just being fast. I mean, the way he swung the bat, almost it looked like a softball player. You know how they like almost get a running head start getting out of the box? Yeah, he like pushes it, and
he would
lean into it.
Exactly. So let's all right. So I mean, I said, or at least I believe, that Messi is the greatest offensive player of all time. Who do you guys feel if you had to put? Is it a generational thing as well? Like if you go back yesteryear, is it Pele? Is it Maradona? before that? Is it, when for years it was Ronaldo and Messi or whoever, but who is it? Can you kind of construct that soccer landscape of who was the best in the 80s, who was the best in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s now?
I think,
or is soccer more defined because it is more individualized on who gets the recognition?
There's an argument, I think, for a lot of different players to be in that conversation. I think Pele just when you start talking about Pele, Messi, Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, I think that those three players are probably, and you got obviously Maradona, right, from Argentina, obviously a very good player. I think you could have an argument for all those players. Soccer has not changed. Things have changed within the sport. For sure, like offside has had its changes, the handling thing, different kind of things but the game of soccer as a whole has pretty much been the same. The game hasn't really.
I'm so glad you said that.
Because
it's all conditioning, and there's no just because you become stronger in soccer doesn't make you better with your feet.
No. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You can look and say, okay, the basketball player today is way better than the basketball player 30 years ago.
I love that point.
And now, is there a soccer player that are players more talented today? Yes, but the game itself has just kind of, the players are catching up to the new way of playing. But I don't believe the game has changed. The game is the same game it was 40 years ago.
Well, it's training facilities. It's all the resources that are available now that weren't back then.
Manage recovery, all that stuff is all part of that process. But soccer, from my perspective, has been the same.
So if you had to choose one, JT, who would it be? Out of the five you mentioned, who would be at the top? And then Nate, I'll pass it off to you.
I have to go with Pele. And the reason why is we talk about this a lot too, about the players that come from nothing, right? But what Pele did for Brazil, and what he did at a young age and how he carried that through, I don't think you could ever go back and say, okay, there's a player that's ever even going to come close to that. You know what I mean? Pele is an unbelievable story. Talk about a janitor. His dad was a janitor. He comes from nothing. His story about how he almost didn't make it, right? And then he went out there at 18 years old, right? It's very exciting. It was like 16 years, I think. He was younger than 18.
Yeah.
And what he did for Brazil, I don't think that you could ever replicate that.
Yeah,
ever.
Pele won three World Cups. That's absolutely mind-boggling. So he set the standard for the greatest soccer playing country in the world, in my opinion, in Brazil. So Pele, without a doubt.
And it's not because my wife right now is pointing anything at me who's from Brazil. I just want to make sure that she's not pointing anything at me.
You better.
Pointing to a Brazil flag and then pointing to the couch. I
want to make a public apology.
I like to consider myself a man of faith.
Well, we have officially gone over our 1 hour allotment, but that is episode number 87 in the books. I do think I said a couple times here this last week that I did make some looking at the scheduling and looking at our past shows. I might have said the wrong number that our show is at. So I'll do a better job with that moving forward. But either way, we're getting closer and closer to 100. We're 13 episodes away, and I'm looking forward to that show and looking forward to that opportunity to continue to do what we do. But hey, we are excited that you stopped on by here once again today. It is Monday, and it is a whole new week, a whole new level of broadcast. We're excited about that. We'll keep talking. I didn't even get the ranking. You didn't get the ranking. Anyway, thanks for coming by here this morning. Nathan Wangler, Valley. I was not the best defender, but I might have been the best goalkeeper.
Well, whatever. As long as you weren't in charge of the audio doing all those things for the past 12 seconds. I know Nate was laughing because you sounded like you just fell in a tub of water for like 15 seconds.
What'd I do?
Going home.
I don't know. It was like, you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher getting drowned.
Oh, well, my bad. Either way, have a great rest of your day, and we will be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.